Across the corridors of time, whispered through the ruins of kingdoms and echoed in the prayers of mystics, there lingers a tale both haunting and luminous. It speaks of scrolls said to have been written or guarded by King Solomon, parchments that shimmer in the borderland between history and legend. These were not ordinary writings, but vessels of power, containing incantations, celestial maps, and divine secrets too perilous to be shown to unworthy eyes. To the faithful, the scrolls symbolized a sacred inheritance, a gift of wisdom that touched the very throne of heaven. To others, they were darker, tools of sorcery and forbidden arts capable of summoning spirits and bending the laws of nature. Whether illuminated by faith or shadowed by fear, they became one of the most enduring mysteries of the ancient world. As centuries passed, the whispers did not fade. Crusaders, alchemists, and secret brotherhoods all spoke of fragments preserved in hidden vaults or carried across deserts by wandering sages. Each retelling added new threads to the tapestry, turning the scrolls into more than relics. They became symbols of humanity's hunger for knowledge that transcends the ordinary, a flame both dangerous and irresistible. To imagine them is to step into a realm where language itself carries power, where letters can summon angels or bind demons, and where a single phrase could alter the fate of nations. Whether real or imagined, the scrolls embody the dream of every seeker, the hope that beyond the veil of the visible lies a word that unlocks the secrets of creation. It is this dream that we follow now into stories of kings and knights, mystics and wanderers, each drawn by the same mystery. The legend of Solomon's scrolls invites us to listen, to wonder, and to ask whether the greatest treasures of history are those that cannot be weighed in gold, but only whispered in the silence of the soul. If you enjoy journeys into forgotten legends and hidden histories, remember to subscribe to the channel, give this film a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps alive the flame of these stories, and together we can uncover many more. When one speaks the name of Solomon, 1,000 images stir at once. He is remembered as a monarch cloaked in splendor, a man who ruled over a golden age of Israel when wealth, power, and divine favor seemed to converge upon Jerusalem. Yet behind the crown and the throne lies another portrait, one less visible in the pages of Scripture, but alive in the whispers of folklore and esoteric tradition. He was not merely a king, but a seeker, a man who gazed into the mysteries of the cosmos and dared to touch what others feared to approach. The biblical texts paint him as a man granted wisdom beyond measure, a gift from God after he prayed not for riches or conquest, but for understanding. This wisdom, it is said, drew visitors from across the known world, none more famous than the Queen of Sheba, who tested him with riddles and marveled at his insight. Yet wisdom in ancient times was never a matter of logic alone. It was intertwined with knowledge of the sacred, with rituals, with the secrets of nature and spirit. To be wise was to understand not only the judgments of men, but also the language of angels. Legends tell that Solomon's wisdom extended into the invisible world. He was said to command the winds, to know the voices of birds, to summon animals from the wilderness, and even to converse with beings not of this earth. Tales speak of his dealings with spirits, of how he could bind demons in chains of light and compel them to labor in his service. Some traditions claim that the very stones of the Temple of Jerusalem were lifted into place by such unseen helpers, creatures pressed into service by the king's will. The temple itself became the crown jewel of Solomon's reign, a structure that not only anchored the people in faith, but also served as a mirror of cosmic order. Some say it was built according to patterns revealed in vision, designs that echoed heavenly architecture. Within its courts and sanctuaries the sacred Ark of the Covenant rested, and yet whispers persist that beneath its visible chambers lay deeper recesses, secret halls carved for the safekeeping of knowledge too perilous for the common faithful. Mystics of later centuries imagined Solomon as the very prototype of the Magus, a king who bridged heaven and earth. To them he was not only a ruler but also an initiate, a master of hidden sciences. His name became attached to grimoires, magical texts, and amulets said to carry his seal. The Solomonic figure grew larger than life, no longer bound to the pages of scripture, but woven into the currents of occult lore. His reign, however, was not without shadows. Stories tell of his alliances with foreign peoples, of wives who brought with them the gods of other lands, of rituals performed in secret that blurred the line between divine service and forbidden arts. In these stories, the wisdom that had lifted him up also became the path of his downfall, for to hold the mysteries is to walk upon a razor's edge between enlightenment and corruption. The figure of Solomon emerges then as a paradox. To his people, he was a monarch of justice and prosperity. Yet to the seekers of esoteric wisdom, he was a master of hidden forces. In his name, both priests and magicians would claim authority. His legacy is not simple history, but a tapestry of faith, fear, and fascination. And it is within this tangled tapestry that the legend of his scrolls takes root. Scrolls said to preserve the knowledge he acquired, written in characters known only to him and his chosen guardians. If Solomon was truly the keeper of secrets, then those scrolls may have been his greatest treasure, hidden deeper than gold, concealed even from the eyes of his closest subjects. They became the invisible foundation of his reign, the silent shadow behind his throne. And though the centuries would bury his kingdom, the whispers of that hidden knowledge would not remain buried. To imagine the lost scrolls of Solomon is to step into a labyrinth of symbols and codes where language is not merely a tool of communication, but a vessel of power. Ancient traditions held that the words inscribed upon those parchments were not of ordinary script, but of sacred alphabets, patterns of letters that themselves contained a vibration of the divine. In the worldview of antiquity, the written word was more than ink upon skin. It was a doorway, a spark that could ignite the unseen. Legends describe these scrolls as repositories of magical alphabets, some said to be the original language spoken before the confusion of tongues at Babel. This primordial speech, pure and unbroken, was thought to resonate with the harmony of creation itself. If one could master such words, one could command not only the elements, but also the very spirits that move between realms. Some claimed the scrolls held the Shem HaMephorish, the secret 72 names of God, each a key to a different power, each a gate into mysteries few would dare open. In the imagination of mystics, these writings also contained maps of the heavens. The stars, the planets, and the hidden constellations were not simply bodies of light, but living beings, each exerting influence upon the earth. The scrolls may have recorded their courses, aligned with sacred numerology, charting the movements of the cosmos as one would chart the tides of the sea. To hold such maps was to hold a calendar of destiny, to know when doors between worlds would open and when silence was required. Other traditions speak of invocations, hymns that could summon angelic hosts or banish restless shades. These were not words to be read aloud lightly. It was believed that even a single syllable, pronounced with full intention, could shift the fabric of reality. The scrolls, then, were not simply books of knowledge, but instruments of power, too dangerous for common eyes and too sacred for careless hands. To those who longed for mastery, the scrolls became the ultimate prize, and yet to others they were a curse, for to read them was to invite burdens that might break the soul. Some whispers claimed that the words could only be understood when the heart was purified, that the letters themselves would vanish or distort before one unworthy. The scrolls were said to protect themselves, cloaking their meaning until revealed to the true initiate. Such tales may seem like myth, yet they echo a deeper truth. Across cultures, sacred texts have always been veiled in codes, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to the mystical writings of the Kabbalists. Language itself has long been seen as the bridge between the mortal and the eternal. The lost scrolls of Solomon, if they ever existed, were perhaps the most potent expression of this belief, writings where ink became magic and letters became living flames. As centuries passed, seekers began to whisper of fragments hidden in far lands. A page glimpsed in Alexandria, a verse preserved by desert mystics, a symbol etched upon an amulet said to date back to the king's time. Whether true or imagined, each claim only added to the aura of mystery. The scrolls became less a single set of writings and more a symbol of the eternal hunger for hidden truth. The secret language of the scrolls remains a riddle unsolved, a melody half heard. Some believe they were lost forever, others that they sleep in some forgotten chamber, waiting for the one who can read them without falling into ruin. Between truth and myth, the scrolls endure as echoes of a wisdom too vast, too dangerous, and too luminous to be forgotten. Among the many legends tied to Solomon, none glows more brightly in the imagination than that of his ring, the Seal of Solomon, said to carry the very power of command over the unseen. This ring, described in countless tales, was more than ornament. It was a key, a tool, perhaps even a weapon. Engraved upon it was a mysterious symbol, often imagined as a star or interlocking triangles, a sign that radiated authority in both the visible and the invisible worlds. According to tradition, the ring allowed Solomon to command spirits, both angelic and demonic. With a mere gesture, he could summon them to appear, bind them to his will, or banish them into silence. Some stories say that he used this power to conscript legions of jinn who labored to raise the great stones of the temple. Others tell of his conversations with angels who revealed to him the secrets of the cosmos, whispering wisdom into his ear through the authority of the ring. Yet the ring was not only a tool of dominion, but also a source of fear. Priests whispered that it held powers too great for human hands, and enemies plotted to seize it, hoping to harness its force for conquest. It is said that Solomon guarded it with his very life, for without the ring, his connection to the unseen would falter. Some darker tales even suggest that the ring once slipped from his possession, and during that time, spirits rebelled, the king wandered in exile, and his throne was usurped until he reclaimed it. The connection between the ring and the lost scrolls is often drawn by those who ponder these mysteries. The scrolls may have preserved the words, the invocations, the sacred names that gave the ring its potency, while the ring itself became the instrument of their expression. If the scrolls were the map, the ring was the key. Together they represented a bridge across worlds, a fusion of knowledge and authority that few dared to imagine. In the lore of magicians and mystics, the Seal of Solomon became an emblem passed down through centuries. Amulets bearing its symbol were said to protect against evil, to shield the bearer from curses, or to grant visions of hidden things. Its shape adorned grimoires in the Middle Ages and talismans in far-off lands, each claiming to echo the original power of Solomon's ring. The stories invite questions that linger like smoke. Was the ring a literal object, fashioned of gold and gem, or was it a symbol, a metaphor for the authority that comes from true wisdom? Did it exist as both, a material thing infused with spiritual force? Those who ponder such mysteries often conclude that the answer lies in both realms, for in legend, symbol and object are never truly separate. The ring reminds us that Solomon's wisdom was not passive knowledge, but active command. He was not simply a scholar of divine secrets, but a master of their use for good or ill, and in the interplay between the scrolls and the ring, we glimpse a vision of knowledge as power, power as responsibility, and responsibility as a burden that weighs heavily upon the one who bears it. The seal of Solomon remains, in story and in symbol, a reminder that some keys open doors not easily closed. To wear it was to carry dominion, but also danger, for power over the invisible world always carries a cost. At the heart of Jerusalem stood the Temple of Solomon, a structure of stone and cedar that gleamed in the sunlight, a house for the divine presence, a beacon to the nations. To the faithful, it was the dwelling place of holiness. Yet to those who whisper of mysteries, the temple was far more than a place of worship. It was a labyrinth of symbols, a vessel of hidden chambers, a fortress concealing knowledge that could not be revealed to the multitude. Beneath the surface of its grand design, legends suggest the temple held secret vaults, chambers carved into bedrock, sealed away from the gaze of common priests and pilgrims. Some claim these hidden rooms were built at Solomon's command to protect his most dangerous treasures, scrolls and artifacts that could not be left in the open sanctuaries. While the Ark of the Covenant rested in the Holy of Holies, invisible to all but the high priest, what else might have slumbered in the shadows below? The image of a hidden chamber beneath the temple is one that has haunted seekers for centuries. Mystics speak of narrow passages leading downward into silence, walls lined with inscriptions that only initiates could read. They describe vaults where fire never burned, yet illumination glowed, where air seemed to hum with unseen presence. It was here, they claimed, that Solomon concealed the writings too perilous to reveal, texts that could summon spirits or alter the course of destiny. To those who believed such tales, the temple was not only the center of faith, but also the heart of secret knowledge. The architecture itself, with its measured proportions, its pillars of Jachin and Boaz, its veils and thresholds, seemed to echo cosmic design, as if the building were a diagram of creation itself. If the visible temple mirrored the heavens, then perhaps the hidden chambers mirrored the mysteries beneath creation, where chaos and order meet. Stories tell of chosen guardians, priests sworn to silence, who descended into these chambers at night to keep watch. They were said to carry lamps of oil, their flames reflecting upon walls inscribed with names and symbols beyond the comprehension of ordinary men. Some claimed these guardians performed rites to preserve the balance between the worlds, invoking the wisdom written upon the scrolls stored in the depths. When the temple was destroyed by invading armies, legends hold that the hidden chambers were sealed, their entrances buried beneath rubble and fire. Some say the scrolls were spirited away before the destruction, carried into exile by priests who knew their value. Others believe they remain entombed beneath the ruins, waiting for the one who can uncover them without unleashing calamity. The allure of these hidden chambers has never waned. Crusaders sought them, mystics dreamed of them, and secret societies later claimed descent from those who once guarded their secrets. The temple, though long gone, remains in memory not only as a holy house, but as a labyrinth of mystery, a vault of forbidden wisdom that continues to cast a shadow over history. To walk among its ruins today is to tread upon stones heavy with whispers. Beneath the ground, unseen and unreachable, may lie the remnants of the greatest mystery of Solomon's reign, the chamber where the scrolls once rested and where the silence still speaks. The story of Solomon's secrets does not rest solely in the hands of the king himself, for after his reign, the legends speak of chosen men, keepers of the mysteries who swore their lives to protect the sacred flame of wisdom. These guardians were said to be no ordinary priests, but initiates, trained in silence, discipline, and secrecy. Their task was not to perform the daily rituals of the temple, but to preserve that which could never be revealed to the multitude. They are described as standing apart, their robes simple, their eyes marked by a gaze that seemed to reach beyond the visible. Some accounts claim they descended into the hidden chambers of the temple, where the most dangerous writings were kept, performing rites by lamplight in the silence of stone corridors. They guarded not only scrolls but also symbols, names, and invocations, keys to power that could alter the world if spoken by unworthy lips. The sacred fire they protected was more than a physical flame burning upon the altar. It was the living symbol of divine knowledge, a fire that could illuminate or consume. To them, Solomon's scrolls were not relics, but living sparks of that flame. Each word contained a fragment of creation's original power, each line a pathway into mysteries not meant for the common faithful. Legends tell of a vow these guardians swore, an oath sealed in blood or breath, binding them to guard the secrets until their lives were extinguished. Some traditions describe them as forming the earliest seed of esoteric brotherhoods, orders of wisdom hidden within the fabric of history, their line of guardianship passing from one generation to the next. Through wars and invasions, through exile and return, their silence endured. It is said that the guardians were not without trials. Temptation followed them, for kings and conquerors desired the hidden knowledge. Gold, threats, and promises were laid before them, yet those who broke their vows were said to have vanished in misery, struck down by the very powers they sought to betray. Their loyalty, then, was not merely to Solomon's memory, but to the fire itself, a force that punished those who misused it. Some mystics suggest that these guardians became the first true initiates of a chain that would stretch into later ages, influencing secret societies, mystics, and alchemists who claimed descent from Solomonic wisdom. Whether in the desert caves of sects, in the hidden chambers of medieval orders, or in the quiet libraries of scholars, the spirit of the guardians was believed to survive. The image of robed figures, faces shadowed by torchlight, descending into stone vaults has lingered in imagination for centuries. They represent not only the protection of Solomon's scrolls, but also the eternal struggle between revelation and concealment. What they guarded was not simply knowledge, but the choice of when and to whom knowledge should be revealed. The guardians of the sacred fire embody a truth that echoes through time, that wisdom is not a treasure to be freely scattered, but a flame to be tended, lest it burn beyond control. Their story casts a silhouette across the centuries, a reminder that hidden knowledge requires hidden keepers. When the Temple of Solomon fell to the armies of Babylon, the world seemed to shatter for the people of Jerusalem. The sacred vessels were carried away, the ark itself vanished from record, and the city lay in ruin. Yet amidst the destruction, whispers claim that something far more precious escaped, the secret scrolls of Solomon, carried into exile, hidden from the hands of conquerors. The story is told in fragments, scattered across traditions. Some say the scrolls were hidden by priests in the final days of the siege, lowered into caverns beneath the temple, sealed with stones so that foreign eyes would never find them. Others claim they were smuggled out in the night, hidden beneath robes or concealed within the sacred bundles of exiles marching into captivity. Among the Jewish communities in Babylon, legends emerged of hidden knowledge kept alive in secret. The scrolls may have been studied in whispers among the wise, their letters recited in the flicker of oil lamps far from Jerusalem. Some believe this was the seed of later mystical traditions, a lineage of secret teaching passed down by sages who claimed to guard fragments of Solomon's wisdom. The fate of the scrolls also became entangled with tales of wandering. Some stories tell that they traveled westward, carried by families fleeing persecution, hidden among merchants and travelers. Others place them in Egypt, buried within desert sanctuaries where mystics prayed in silence. Still others claim they crossed into Arabia, guarded by tribes who wove them into their own traditions of hidden knowledge. For centuries, their presence was hinted at in strange places, a symbol carved on a stone, a verse echoed in a foreign tongue, a fragment of law that bore the unmistakable weight of Solomonic origin. Scholars who pursued these trails often found themselves lost in contradictions, for each culture seemed to claim a piece of the treasure, yet none could prove its possession. To those who lived in exile, the scrolls became more than lost writings. They became symbols of hope. If the temple could be destroyed and the ark taken, perhaps the wisdom of Solomon still survived in secret, a flame kept alive through hardship. The scrolls became a hidden inheritance, promising that even in exile, divine knowledge had not abandoned them. This exile of the scrolls gave rise to the belief that knowledge cannot be bound to one place. Just as people are scattered and carried across the world, so too wisdom flows into unexpected lands, finding guardians in unlikely hands. The legend of the scrolls in exile tells of survival not only of a people, but of a hidden tradition that no conqueror could fully destroy. Even today, stories linger of scrolls hidden beneath desert sands or sealed within forgotten sanctuaries. Whether these are memories or myths, they reveal the unbroken fascination with the idea that Solomon's wisdom did not perish in fire and conquest, but journeyed onward, waiting for its appointed hour to reappear. Far from the bustling cities and palaces, in the silence of barren hills and wind-swept caves, there dwelt those who sought a different kind of kingdom. These were the mystics of the desert, men and women who turned away from the noise of the world to pursue visions, purification, and hidden truths. Among their number, whispers persist. Fragments of Solomon's wisdom may have survived, carried into their secluded communities, where the lost scrolls found guardians among seekers of the spirit. The Essenes, who dwelt near the Dead Sea, are often mentioned in connection with such mysteries. Living in strict discipline, preserving scrolls in caves and clay jars, they sought purity of body and soul. Some have speculated that fragments of Solomonic law found their way into their libraries, perhaps hidden among the many sacred writings they preserved. The idea of magical alphabets, invocations, and celestial maps may have resonated with their vision of a world where light struggled against darkness. Other desert brotherhoods, less known but equally enigmatic, also enter the story. Travelers spoke of hermits who recited prayers in languages unfamiliar, who gazed at the stars as though reading words written across the night sky. Some claimed these were heirs of ancient knowledge, disciples of Solomon's scrolls, who kept their traditions alive in the stillness of the desert. To the east, the Magi of Persia, known as wise men and star readers, carried their own heritage of mystical practice. Some tales wove them into the larger story of Solomonic wisdom, suggesting that echoes of the scrolls crossed into their hands, shaping their understanding of astrology and ritual. If so, then Solomon's influence reached beyond his kingdom, flowing into the veins of Eastern tradition. The desert has always been a place of both exile and revelation. It strips away comfort, leaving only silence, sky, and stone. In such a place, the words of hidden scrolls would take on a power unmatched by courts or temples. To meditate upon their letters beneath the vast dome of stars was to feel the breath of eternity itself. Stories tell of visions in these desolate places where mystics claim to hear voices of angels, to see the spirits Solomon once commanded. To them, the scrolls were not merely old writings, but living companions, whispers of wisdom guiding them through solitude. The desert became a cathedral without walls, and the scrolls, whether real or imagined, its sacred liturgy. As centuries passed, the legend of desert mystics and their secret knowledge grew. Pilgrims and travelers brought back tales of hermits who spoke of Solomon as if he still walked among them, whose words echoed fragments of long-forgotten wisdom. Whether these were memories or inventions, they strengthened the belief that the scrolls had not been lost, but hidden in the silence of sand and stone. The image of desert mystics lingers because it speaks to something timeless. Knowledge survives not only in palaces and libraries, but also in the hearts of those who seek it with devotion. The desert, with its silence and vastness, became the refuge of hidden scrolls and the souls who guarded them, a reminder that truth often dwells where the world least expects to find it. As centuries unfolded, whispers of Solomon's scrolls began to weave into new languages, new lands, and new traditions. From the deserts of the Near East, their echoes seemed to travel across mountains and seas, finding a place within the mystical pursuits of Europe. The lore of Solomon, once bound to Jerusalem, began to surface in the secret art of alchemy, in the cryptic diagrams of astrologers, and in the manuscripts of magicians who claimed descent from ancient wisdom. Alchemy, with its pursuit of transformation, became a natural vessel for Solomonic echoes. Alchemists sought not only to change base metals into gold, but to uncover the hidden laws of the cosmos, to pierce the veil between matter and spirit. In their writings, references appear to Solomon's name, to the seal said to command spirits, and to scrolls that contained formulas beyond the reach of ordinary men. To them, Solomon was a model of the sage who held both spiritual and material mastery. Astrologers, too, found in the legend of Solomon a guiding star. His supposed maps of the heavens, his mastery over cosmic forces, aligned with their belief that the stars influenced destiny. The idea of scrolls inscribed with celestial diagrams inspired generations of astrologers to imagine themselves heirs to his vision, decoding the skies as though continuing a conversation that began in Solomon's court. The medieval magicians of Europe, working in secret chambers, drew heavily upon texts that bore the name of Solomon. Grimoires such as the Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon appeared, claiming to preserve his teachings. Whether authentic or inventions of later centuries, these works became central to the Western tradition of ceremonial magic. They described invocations, seals, and rituals said to echo the very words once inscribed on the king's lost scrolls. The flow of knowledge from east to west was not accidental. It traveled along trade routes carried by merchants, scholars, and wanderers who exchanged more than goods. Books, parchments, and whispered teachings crossed deserts and seas, each carrying fragments of older traditions. In this exchange, the memory of Solomon's scrolls became part of the larger river of human wisdom, mingling with Greek philosophy, Egyptian law, and Arab science. Alchemy itself became a tapestry of many sources, yet within it, the shadow of Solomon remained. His name was invoked as a figure who had already achieved what alchemists sought: mastery over transformation, command over spirit and matter, wisdom that united heaven and earth. To pursue alchemy was, in a sense, to chase the memory of Solomon's hidden knowledge. As this wisdom settled into Europe, it took root in secret circles, protected from the suspicion of church and crown. The scrolls of Solomon, whether real or metaphorical, became the unseen foundation of these quests. They symbolized the idea that true wisdom was never destroyed, only hidden, waiting to be rediscovered by those with courage to seek it. The path of the scrolls from east to west reveals how legends travel, how they change shape, yet retain their core. Whether in the desert sanctuaries of mystics, the manuscripts of Arab scholars, or the laboratories of European alchemists, the scrolls lived on as whispers of a forgotten legacy, guiding seekers across ages and continents. When the Knights Templar first set foot in Jerusalem, they were not merely soldiers of the cross. They were men sworn by oath, bound by secrecy, and driven by a hunger that seemed to go beyond the call of war. While outwardly they were guardians of pilgrims and warriors of Christendom, whispers suggest their true mission was far more enigmatic. Beneath the Temple Mount, where Solomon's sanctuary once stood, they began to dig. The chronicles of the age speak little of these excavations, yet legends insist the Templars tunneled beneath the stones of the Holy Mount for years. What did they seek in those hidden vaults? Some say gold or relics of the Ark. Others claim they searched for the lost scrolls of Solomon, those forbidden writings sealed away in secret chambers. The thought of armored knights kneeling in dust by torchlight before walls carved with symbols from another age has haunted imagination ever since. According to rumor, what they found altered them forever. Some tales describe chests of scrolls, brittle yet legible, filled with diagrams of the heavens and invocations of power. Others tell of crystalline vessels, glowing with a light that never dimmed, or artifacts inscribed with signs older than Hebrew or Greek. To the faithful, these were gifts of wisdom. To the suspicious, they were dangerous instruments of sorcery. What is certain is that after their time in Jerusalem, the Templars changed. They grew in wealth, influence, and mystery. They built fortresses not only of stone but of silence. Their order was unlike any other, bound by oaths so strict that even kings trembled before them. It is as though something beneath the temple had kindled in them a fire that could not be extinguished. The possibility that they held Solomon's scrolls explains much of their sudden rise, for in those writings lay secrets of command, not only over spirits, but over men, secrets of architecture, geometry, and sacred proportion that allowed them to raise great castles and cathedrals as though guided by unseen hands. Some claimed their knowledge of finance, navigation, and medicine was too advanced for their age, as though borrowed from a wisdom that stretched beyond time. If they found the scrolls, they did not reveal them openly. Instead, they wove fragments of that wisdom into their symbols, their rituals, their hidden words. To the outside world, they were warriors. To those within, they may have been heirs of Solomon, guardians of a wisdom older than Christendom itself. The Templar revelation, whether fact or legend, marks a turning point in the story of the scrolls. For from this moment, the whispers of Solomonic secrets entered the bloodstream of Europe, carried not by exiles or mystics, but by an order of knights sworn to secrecy. Whatever they uncovered beneath the Temple Mount, its echo still lingers in the mysteries that surrounded their power. The life of a Templar was one of discipline, sacrifice, and silence. To join the order was to leave behind family, wealth, and name, binding oneself with oaths that reached beyond earthly loyalty. These oaths were not simple vows of faith. They were covenants sealed in secrecy, whispered in ceremonies few outside the brotherhood ever witnessed. Those who entered the Templar fold swore obedience not only to their leaders, but to the mysteries guarded by the order. Rumors of their initiation rites filled Europe with fear and fascination. Some said they renounced the world and kissed sacred relics, others that they were shown symbols whose meaning was never spoken. What remained constant was the sense that their order was bound together by more than faith. It was bound by hidden knowledge. The blood that sealed these oaths became a symbol in itself. In some accounts, Templars were said to cut their palms and mingle their blood in a chalice, a ritual of unity and secrecy. Whether true or imagined, such stories reflect the intensity of their bond. For the Templars were not merely soldiers, they were guardians of something greater than steel and stone. Their reputation for secrecy grew as their influence expanded. Kings and princes found themselves indebted to them, yet unable to pierce the veil of their inner life. What secrets lay in their chapels, what words were spoken in their midnight gatherings, became the subject of endless speculation. Some believed they prayed not only to Christ, but to forces more ancient, whispering the names of Solomon and the powers of his scrolls. The Templars' seal and symbols only fueled the mystery. Two knights riding a single horse, the red cross, the cryptic designs carved into their churches, all seemed to hint at meanings beyond the surface. Was their cross merely a sign of sacrifice, or did it echo older symbols, tracing back to Solomonic geometry and the star of the seal? Their secrecy was their strength, yet it was also their peril. For in an age where knowledge could be as dangerous as a sword, whispers of hidden wisdom became accusations of heresy. Many claimed the Templars worshipped idols or practiced forbidden rites. Others accused them of invoking spirits, of performing dark rituals under the guise of Christian faith. Whether these accusations were truth, invention, or a mixture of both, they reveal how deeply the Templars had come to be associated with the forbidden. Their blood oaths, their secrecy, their sudden rise to power, all pointed to a knowledge hidden from the eyes of ordinary men. And at the heart of these suspicions lay the shadow of Solomon's scrolls, said to be the source of their hidden strength. If the Templars did indeed uncover the scrolls of Solomon, they did not display them openly. Instead, the wisdom they guarded may have been concealed in code, veiled in architecture, symbols, and ritual. Like a flame hidden beneath stone, the knowledge glowed, visible only to those with eyes trained to perceive it. Templar churches and chapels across Europe display designs that puzzled historians for centuries. Unlike the great cathedrals built by other orders, Templar buildings often echoed circular patterns resembling the Temple of Solomon itself. To some, these circles symbolized eternity. To others, they hinted at the hidden geometry of creation, knowledge drawn from the scrolls that once mapped the cosmos. Symbols became the language of the Templars, their true scriptures etched not on parchment but in stone. The red cross they bore could be read as a mark of sacrifice, but in certain traditions it was also linked to the crossing of worlds, the meeting point of spirit and matter. Their seals, too, carried double meanings. Two knights upon a horse, an emblem of unity, but also a riddle of duality and hidden brotherhood. Within their rituals, fragments of Solomonic wisdom may have been preserved. Invocations, prayers, and gestures whispered in candlelit chambers could have echoed ancient words of power, softened by time, adapted to their faith, yet still carrying the cadence of a wisdom older than their order. Some suggest that the very idea of secrecy, the guarding of knowledge by oath, was itself a continuation of the guardians of the sacred fire who once stood watch over Solomon's chambers. Manuscripts from later centuries reveal traces of this hidden code. Works attributed to Solomon began to appear, filled with invocations and diagrams. Many of these texts were linked to traditions of ceremonial magic, but scholars have long suspected that their spread was tied to the dissolution of the Templar order. In their downfall, fragments of their hidden knowledge may have scattered into the hands of mystics and scribes. The greatest evidence of Solomonic influence may be found in the architecture that arose in their wake. Gothic cathedrals with their soaring spires and intricate windows carry patterns of sacred geometry believed to echo divine order. Some argue that the Templars were the unseen hands behind these designs, embedding the wisdom of Solomon into the very stones of Europe's holiest structures. The notion of code is vital to understanding their legacy, for to reveal knowledge openly was to risk destruction, but to veil it in symbol was to ensure its survival. The Templars, inheritors of Solomon's scrolls, may have encoded the wisdom they uncovered in forms that could endure across ages, seen but not recognized, present yet hidden. Solomon's wisdom filtered through their hands became not a book on a shelf, but a secret written in stone, blood, and symbol. It endured not by proclamation, but by concealment, whispering across centuries to those who could read the code. The power of the Templars grew too great, and with power came envy, fear, and betrayal. Kings who once knelt before them turned against them, and whispers of heresy became weapons in the hands of those who sought their downfall. The Inquisition, with its ruthless zeal, was unleashed upon the order, and the guardians of hidden wisdom found themselves hunted as criminals. The trial of the Templars was one of the darkest spectacles of the Middle Ages. Under torture, men confessed to anything their captors demanded: idolatry, sorcery, denial of faith. Whether these confessions were truth or invention, they fed the flames of suspicion that had always surrounded the order. To their enemies, the Templars were no longer the Knights of Christ, but sorcerers and heretics, wielders of forbidden power. Yet the greatest question was never answered: what became of the treasures they had guarded? Chronicles tell of chests and scrolls spirited away before the arrests, carried in secrecy from their strongholds, loaded onto ships that vanished across the seas. Others speak of hidden vaults deep beneath castles and cathedrals, sealed before the inquisitors could arrive. The idea that the Templars lost everything is contradicted by the enduring mystery of what was never found. Many believe that among these hidden treasures were the scrolls of Solomon, smuggled out of France, carried into the shadows of Europe. The sudden appearance of Solomonic texts in the centuries that followed only strengthens this suspicion. Whether as grimoires, alchemical manuscripts, or mystical diagrams, the wisdom once bound to the Temple of Solomon seemed to resurface after the fall of the Templars, transformed but alive. The ships that fled the ports of La Rochelle became a legend of their own. Some say they carried the Templar fleet, escaping with their treasures to Scotland, Portugal, or even across the ocean to unknown lands. Wherever they went, they carried not only gold and relics, but knowledge too dangerous to leave behind. The Inquisition sought to extinguish the Templars, but in so doing, it scattered their secrets across the winds of history. Hidden societies began to emerge in later centuries, each claiming descent from those who escaped the fire. In their symbols, in their rituals, in their whispered words, traces of Solomon's scrolls may have survived, sheltered beneath layers of secrecy. The fall of the Templars marks not the destruction of their legacy, but its transformation. Forced underground, their wisdom became the seed of future orders, concealed from the eyes of kings and inquisitors alike. The scrolls of Solomon, if they were ever truly in their hands, slipped once again into the shadows, where legend thrives and certainty fades. When the Templars were scattered and their order dissolved, the wisdom they guarded did not vanish. Across Europe, centuries later, whispers began to surface of a new brotherhood, one that claimed to inherit ancient secrets hidden from the common world. They called themselves the Rosicrucians, a name wrapped in roses and crosses, symbols of death, rebirth, and the marriage of opposites. Their appearance was sudden, their origins cloaked in mystery, yet their manifestos spoke of a wisdom stretching back into forgotten ages. The Rosicrucians claimed no fortress, no army, and no crown. Instead, they spread their message in secret writings, hinting at a brotherhood that worked unseen, guiding humanity from the shadows. These writings promised a new dawn of learning, where alchemy, astrology, and sacred science would restore balance to a broken world. Yet behind the poetic words lay the familiar echo of something older, the wisdom of Solomon. Scholars who studied their texts found references to hidden names of God, diagrams of celestial harmony, and invocations that mirrored those attributed to the lost scrolls. The Rosicrucians described themselves as heirs of ancient traditions, preserved in silence, carried across generations by hidden hands. Many began to suspect that their order was a continuation of the Solomonic flame, passed from the Templars into new form. Their symbol, the rose upon the cross, carried layers of meaning. To some, it was the blossoming of spirit upon the structure of matter. To others, a veil concealing mysteries too dangerous to display openly. Just as the guardians of the sacred fire had veiled their wisdom in ritual and symbol, so too did the Rosicrucians cloak their heritage in allegory. Only those with eyes trained to see could grasp the depth of their message. The hermetic flame they carried was more than alchemical metaphor. It represented the eternal fire of hidden knowledge said to burn in the heart of creation itself. In Rosicrucian writings, one finds descriptions of this flame as both illumination and trial, a light that purifies those worthy and consumes those who approach unprepared. It is the same flame once tended by the guardians of Solomon's chambers, preserved now in a new age and under a new name. The sudden appearance of the Rosicrucians in 17th century Europe sparked both fascination and fear. Some hailed them as enlightened reformers who sought to unite science and faith. Others condemned them as heretics, sorcerers, and deceivers. Yet their message endured, woven into the tapestry of Europe's intellectual and spiritual awakening. What made their legacy enduring was not only their texts, but the sense of lineage they evoked. They spoke as though they were part of a chain stretching back into antiquity, a chain that included Egyptian mysteries, Hermetic sages, and the wisdom of Solomon himself. To their followers, the Rosicrucians were not inventors, but inheritors, carrying forward the eternal quest for the hidden word. Though their true identity remains elusive, the Rosicrucians remain one of the clearest signs that the flame of Solomon's scrolls did not die with the Templars. It survived, transformed into new language, new symbols, and new promises. Their legacy points to the resilience of hidden knowledge, forever resurfacing in forms suited to its age. As the Rosicrucian writings spread across Europe, another brotherhood began to rise, one whose influence would touch the very foundations of modern history. They called themselves the Freemasons, a society of builders and seekers who cloaked their mysteries in the language of stone and architecture. To the outside world, they were craftsmen. To those initiated into their deeper circles, they were inheritors of Solomon's temple. From their earliest lodges, the Freemasons spoke of building not only with stone, but with spirit. Their rituals invoked the memory of the Temple of Solomon, casting their work as a continuation of that sacred project. Each symbol, from the compass and square to the all-seeing eye, carried layers of meaning that echoed the hidden codes of the lost scrolls. To the uninitiated, these were tools of trade. To the initiated, they were keys to mysteries older than the lodges themselves. The imagery of light became central to their tradition. Freemasons sought to build the Temple of Light, a structure not of stone but of knowledge, where each initiate became a living stone placed in harmony with the divine plan. This vision mirrored the hidden chambers of Solomon's temple, where sacred geometry was not merely architecture, but a reflection of cosmic order. Freemasonry wove together threads from many sources: biblical stories, medieval guild traditions, alchemical symbolism, and Rosicrucian allegory. Yet at its heart lay the Solomonic legacy. The very initiation rituals, which speak of death and rebirth, of seeking the hidden word, reflect the ancient quest for the wisdom once inscribed upon Solomon's scrolls. The secrecy of the Freemasons only deepened their aura. Their lodges were closed to outsiders, their symbols veiled, their rituals whispered in guarded halls. Accusations of heresy, sorcery, and conspiracy followed them, as they had the Templars, for the world always fears what it cannot see. Yet the very persistence of such suspicion suggests that within their lodges lay knowledge too potent to be dismissed as mere superstition. The cathedrals of Europe, many of which carried hidden geometries and coded designs, became associated with Masonic influence. Some believed the Freemasons preserved the same architectural wisdom once used to raise Solomon's temple, passed down through secret channels of brotherhood. The notion of a temple of light, visible in stone, yet concealing mysteries beneath, was itself a continuation of Solomonic tradition. As the Enlightenment dawned, Freemasonry positioned itself as a bridge between faith and reason, between science and mystery. Their lodges became centers where scholars, nobles, and visionaries met under the veil of secrecy, continuing the eternal dialogue between the visible and the hidden. In their pursuit of light, they echoed the ancient flame guarded in Solomon's chambers. The Freemasons stand as one of the clearest heirs of the Solomonic tradition, embedding his legacy not only in ritual, but in the very fabric of society. Through them, the Temple of Solomon was not merely remembered, it was rebuilt in symbol, in code, and in the living fellowship of those who sought the hidden word. If the Freemasons preserved Solomon's legacy in stone and ritual, the alchemists pursued it in fire and transformation. To them, the scrolls of Solomon were not only lost writings, but the very embodiment of the philosopher's dream, the secret of transmutation, the hidden formula that united matter and spirit. Their laboratories, filled with flasks, furnaces, and coded manuscripts, were temples of another kind, where the alchemical quest became a continuation of the Solomonic path. Alchemy was never simply about gold, simply about. To the true alchemist, the transmutation of base metals into shining treasure was a symbol of a deeper transformation, the purification of the soul, the ascent of the spirit. Solomon, with his wisdom and his command over hidden forces, was seen as the archetype of this quest. The scrolls he guarded, if they survived, were imagined as containing the great formula itself, the secret that could turn darkness into light, corruption into purity, mortal into eternal. Legends tell that some alchemists claimed direct descent from the Solomonic line of knowledge. In their writings, symbols echo the sacred geometry of the temple, invocations resemble those whispered of in the lost scrolls, and diagrams align with the celestial maps attributed to Solomon's vision. Whether these were true inheritances or inspired inventions, they reveal the central place of Solomonic myth in the alchemical imagination. The dream of the philosopher's stone became inseparable from the scrolls. To create the stone was to unlock the divine word, hidden within matter, to hold in one's hands the same power that Solomon wielded through his ring and writings. The scrolls, then, were not simply books. They were the stone in written form, the eternal formula inscribed in letters rather than crystal. Alchemical texts often disguised their meaning in allegory, describing transformations in terms of kings and queens, suns and moons, dragons and serpents. Yet beneath the allegory one can sense the same tension that haunted Solomon's legacy, the line between sacred wisdom and forbidden power. To master the formula was to approach divine creation, yet to misuse it was to fall into ruin. Some alchemists claimed success, whispering of golden transmutations, of elixirs that granted health and long life. Others perished in obscurity, consumed by the very fires they tended. Yet in their pursuit, one can hear the echo of the Solomonic quest, the hunger to pierce the veil of the visible, to touch the eternal flame hidden in creation. As their manuscripts circulated across Europe, often in secrecy, they carried with them fragments of this greater myth. Marginal notes invoked the name of Solomon, diagrams bore his seal, and recipes were attributed to his wisdom. Whether truth or invention, such attributions reveal how deeply his legend was woven into the dream of alchemy. The alchemist's dream was not fulfilled in gold or stone, but it endured in spirit. Through them, the idea of Solomon's scrolls lived on, no longer as ancient parchment, but as the promise of transformation itself. In their laboratories, the lost wisdom of the king became a living quest, a fire that burned in glass and symbol, reaching for the eternal truth hidden within the world. The story of Solomon's scrolls was never told in light alone. For every tale of wisdom, and divine blessing, another arose of peril, of secrets that crossed into the realm of forbidden magic. To those who feared what lay within the writings, the scrolls were not sacred inheritance, but dangerous tools, doorways to powers that no mortal should wield. Accusations of sorcery clung to Solomon's name throughout history. His dealings with spirits, his command over demons, and the ring that bound the unseen world gave rise to suspicion that his knowledge had ventured too far. Some claimed that his scrolls contained formulas of necromancy, rituals for summoning the dead, and invocations of beings who thrived in shadow. Such accusations did not diminish his legend but cast it in darker tones, making him both revered and feared. The very idea of hidden scrolls carried with it the suggestion of secrecy and taboo. What wisdom must be concealed beneath stone and oath, if not wisdom that skirted the boundaries of danger? To priests and rulers wary of losing their authority, the thought of knowledge that could summon spirits or bend fate was intolerable. The scrolls became symbols of temptation, like a forbidden fruit whose taste promised illumination at the price of corruption. In medieval Europe, as stories of the scrolls circulated, they were often linked with grimoires, those shadowy books of spells and conjurations. The Key of Solomon and its lesser counterpart became infamous, manuals of summoning and command attributed to the king. Whether genuine or inventions of later scribes, their existence reinforced the belief that Solomon's legacy was tied not only to wisdom, but to the dangerous art of magic. The shadow of forbidden magic also gave rise to fear among common people. To them, the scrolls were not sources of enlightenment but of curses. Tales were told of men who sought the writings, only to vanish, their minds broken, or their lives consumed by unseen forces. The scrolls, it was said, protected themselves, punishing those who approached with greed or arrogance. Such tales ensured that the scrolls remained objects of awe. They were no longer merely ancient relics, but living mysteries capable of shaping destiny for good or ill. The danger that surrounded them only deepened their allure, for what is forbidden draws seekers all the more. To walk the line between sacred wisdom and forbidden magic is to tread a narrow path. Solomon, in legend, mastered this path, yet those who came after often stumbled. The scrolls stand as a reminder that knowledge can enlighten, but it can also destroy, casting long shadows where light dares to shine. While the legends of Solomon's scrolls spread across Europe, they also found life in the Islamic world, where the figure of Suleiman held a place of deep reverence. In the Quran, he appears not only as a king, but as a prophet, granted dominion over the winds, the animals, and the jinn. His wisdom was seen as a divine gift, his mastery over the unseen a sign of his favored status. Yet even within this reverence, echoes of the lost scrolls can be heard. Islamic traditions often spoke of Solomon's command over the jinn, spirits of fire and air, who labored to build his temple and serve his court. The knowledge that gave him such power was said to be written down, inscribed in scrolls or sealed in hidden books. Some stories claimed these writings were buried beneath his throne, guarded until the appointed time when they would be revealed. Sufi mystics who sought union with the divine through contemplation and hidden knowledge sometimes referred to Solomon's legacy as an example of wisdom that transcended ordinary understanding. To them, his mastery over spirits symbolized mastery over the self, the conquering of the inner demons that cloud the path to enlightenment. Yet even in this spiritualized interpretation, the image of the hidden scrolls remained, veiled but alive. In the libraries of Islamic scholars, works appeared that bore Solomonic influence. Texts on astrology, medicine, and talismans often invoked his name, attributing their authority to his wisdom. Some claimed that the very letters of the Arabic alphabet contained secrets preserved from Solomon's writings, codes that could unlock divine mysteries if read with the right intention. The jinn themselves became central to the Solomonic myth in Islamic lands. To summon or command them was said to require knowledge of names, symbols, and invocations preserved since the days of the Prophet King. Stories told of sorcerers who sought these secrets, some succeeding, others destroyed by the very forces they tried to bind. The scrolls, in this context, were imagined not only as Hebrew treasures but as universal relics of divine command. The influence of Solomon's legend in the Islamic world spread far beyond theology. It entered folklore, poetry, and tales told in markets and courts. And Solomon's ring, his scrolls, and his mastery over spirits became themes in stories that blended reverence with wonder, making him a figure who transcended cultures and faiths. What emerges from these echoes is the universality of the Solomonic myth. His scrolls, whether real or imagined, became part of a heritage shared across civilizations. They symbolize not only hidden wisdom, but the unity of seekers across time and place, all drawn to the same vision of knowledge that bridges the earthly and the divine. As centuries passed and the age of mystics and knights gave way to the modern world, the legend of Solomon's scrolls did not fade. Instead, it transformed, finding new life in myths, conspiracies, and occult traditions that claimed the scrolls still survive, hidden in archives beyond the reach of ordinary eyes. Secret societies were often accused of possessing fragments of this lost wisdom. Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and countless smaller groups became the focus of speculation, their rituals and symbols interpreted as codes preserving Solomonic secrets. To their critics, the scrolls explained the hidden influence these societies seemed to wield in politics, architecture, and culture. To their defenders, the scrolls were metaphors for spiritual truths, not literal parchments of power. Conspiracy theories painted the scrolls as the ultimate prize in a hidden war for control. Governments, religious institutions, and secret orders were all accused of seeking or guarding them. Some claimed the scrolls lie beneath the Vatican, sealed in the vast underground archives. Others insisted they were carried to the New World, buried beneath monuments or woven into the founding symbols of nations. The world wars of the 20th century gave new fuel to these stories. Whispers emerged of occult divisions within armies, of leaders obsessed with ancient relics, of secret expeditions to deserts and ruins in search of lost wisdom. In these tales, the scrolls were imagined as blueprints for unimaginable power, technologies, weapons, or spiritual forces capable of reshaping history. At the same time, the scrolls entered the realm of modern occultism. Ritual magicians and esoteric writers invoked Solomon's name, claiming access to traditions preserved from his scrolls. Books and grimoires attributed to him circulated in hidden circles, some ancient in form, others modern creations wrapped in old authority. To practitioners, the scrolls represented a living current of power, not a relic of the past. Even in popular culture, the legend persists. Novels, films, and television weave Solomon's scrolls into their plots, presenting them as treasures rivaling the Ark or the Grail. They are imagined as maps to hidden chambers, codes that unlock forgotten technologies, or manuscripts that promise ultimate transformation. The scrolls have become a canvas upon which modern imagination paints its own quests. In this world of myth and conspiracy, the scrolls embody the timeless allure of forbidden knowledge. They remain elusive, always just out of reach, yet always present in whispers. Whether hidden beneath stone locked in secret vaults, or encoded in symbols scattered across history, the scrolls of Solomon continue to live, not only as artifacts of legend, but as mirrors of humanity's unending hunger for the hidden word. From the ruins of the temple to the secret chambers of knights, from the desert caves of mystics to the lodges of Freemasons, The legend of Solomon's scrolls has traveled across ages like a hidden current. It has crossed languages and cultures, transforming itself again and again, yet always returning to the same vision. A treasure of wisdom that bridges the visible and the invisible, the earthly and the divine. The scrolls represent more than parchment or ink. They are symbols of humanity's unending hunger for knowledge that transcends the ordinary. To some they are guides to power, teaching how to command spirits and bend the elements. To others, they are vessels of light, preserving the divine word that illuminates the path of the soul. Whether feared as instruments of forbidden magic or revered as relics of holy wisdom, they embody the paradox of knowledge, its power to elevate and to destroy. Every age has imagined the scrolls in its own way. To exiles, they were hope hidden in secrecy. To alchemists, they were the key to transformation. To Templars and Freemasons, they were a legacy to be preserved in symbols and rituals. To modern seekers, they are mysteries entangled in conspiracy, awaiting discovery in vaults, archives, or coded manuscripts. Perhaps the scrolls have long since turned to dust, or perhaps they sleep still beneath stone, waiting for the hands that can bear their burden. Yet their true survival lies not in any hidden chamber, but in the stories that refuse to fade. With every whisper, every tale, every symbol etched in stone, the scrolls live on, calling to those who seek. The eternal quest for the hidden word is not only a pursuit of ancient parchments. It is the story of humanity itself, forever reaching beyond what is seen, forever striving to touch the mystery that lies just beyond grasp. The scrolls of Solomon remind us that wisdom is a flame, fragile yet enduring, dangerous yet luminous, and that the hunger for truth is the fire that keeps generations searching. The journey through these legends shows us that the scrolls are not merely relics of a vanished king, but mirrors of our own longing, our own restless pursuit of what lies hidden. Whether real or metaphorical, they endure because the quest they represent is eternal. Thank you for joining this journey into the mysteries of Solomon's scrolls. If you enjoyed exploring this hidden legacy of wisdom, power, and secrecy, remember to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next adventure into the past. Give this film a like to support the work, share your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and most importantly, share this video with your friends and family so they too can walk with us into the shadows of history and the light of forgotten knowledge.